Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the Backlinking podcast. The name, like naming things, has never been my biggest talent, but I have been wanting to do this for a long while. I actually filmed a podcast episode back in September of last year, but I ended up never publishing it because I didn't get to the editing of that episode. But um, I have been wanting to do a podcast for a while now, and I still have the Mindful Productivity podcast, which I will keep having. I will keep using and playing around with that podcast and getting guests. But the huge issue there is that I heavily rely on guests for me to be able to publish episodes. And I wanted that to be sort of a different kind of podcast, not just me talking to the camera every single time, but having guests on. Discussing the productivity and the personal knowledge management space and applications and things like that. But I also have a lot of thoughts which aren't necessarily suited as regular YouTube videos. I will have this on YouTube as well, but they aren't necessarily suited as regular YouTube videos. People won't actually sit there and watch me just talk without any B-roll. I might include more B-roll and more stuff like that later. But when I'm now first starting out, I will keep it as simple as possible. I think that is important to keep this going consistently. But the things I really enjoy talking about are like these weekly I call them weekly tech or weekly productivity news. I think that's what I call them. Those are great as YouTube videos because I can show everything that is happening, but there are also things with that. So every time I film one of those, I have my own personal thoughts. For example, when Notion had their huge event, one thing was covering the event and the things that came out of the event. So the new features like offline, like the new layout, things like that. But there is also another aspect of it, and that is like the question, where is Notion headed? Where is the PKM and the productivity space in general headed? We have applications like LifeStack, which is like this AI calendar blend thing, which will use your wearables like your Apple Watch to help determine when you should do a task, when you should do heavy tasks, when you should do lighter tasks, things like that. And I think all of these things are really exciting, but I think those and my thoughts on those things are not necessarily suited for YouTube. They are more suited for something like this. So I am calling this the Backlinking Podcast. I am hosting it on YouTube. So there will be one weekly episode on YouTube, and I will do extra episodes every time something comes up, every time there is something I want to talk about, because these are really quick and easy to make. I will also do some like audio only episodes. Right now, it will be available on Spotify, but I will try to distribute it to different places like Apple Podcasts as well, and just get it out there. And one of the last thing I will say, one of the main reasons why I am making a podcast and I like this style, it is not necessarily just because it is really easy to do and you can chop up bits and I can post them as like YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, things like that. But the main reason for me doing it is simply because I really enjoy the format. Like from last week, so it's been I think five days or so since I downloaded and bought myself a new podcast application to listen to podcasts. I actually purchased a 5-year plan. Since that day, I have been listening to podcasts for 14 hours. So 5 days, 14 hours. And that's in the weekend. It is even more on the weekdays when I'm at work and when I'm commuting back and forward between home and work. There will be a lot more podcasts. So I I listen to it a lot, and just like I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I wanted to make a YouTube channel, and honestly, I haven't at least been able to find something as niche as talking about productivity applications and productivity trends. So I thought, why not try it out? I will still have the Mindful Productivity podcast, which will have a few guests on. I actually sent 4 emails right before New Year's Eve, so I'm still waiting to get answers to that. I will have to do a follow up late this week, early next week. I'm hoping to get guests on that. But in this podcast, we will be discussing productivity trends, productivity tech, productivity in general. So I am really excited. This is the intro episode. There will be a lot more episodes coming, and especially now, the first couple of weeks, I will probably film a lot more simply because I'm really excited about it, and there are a lot of ideas I've had and been planning out. So, um, a lot of podcast episodes are coming in the next couple of weeks. But I think that covers it for the first intro episode. I really hope you will follow along. The video will, of course, be on YouTube. I recommend going to Spotify as well if you use that and just following the podcast so you can get it because I think this will be better while you do something else. Like I like to listen to podcasts while I play video games, for example. So things like that, it might work out for. But again, you will have to decide that for yourself. But hopefully, I will be able to keep posting a lot and you will enjoy the podcasts. And as usual, if you have any sort of feedback, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me. I try to answer as soon as I can, but sometimes it takes a couple of days. Once again, thank you so much for listening to the first ever episode.